I think that when I was younger, any attempts to incorporate more self-care into my routine were motivated by shame. And what I've come to realize as absolute fact for me is that shame might be sufficient enough to kick you in the butt to start, but it is not going to sustain you. And in most cases, shame is actually going to paralyze you into complete inaction. Hello. Welcome to Wild Geese. I was on the train just now and I had a moment while I was looking around at everyone around me, and I realized that all of these people are making such intentional decisions about how they're carrying themselves, about what they're wearing, about the rings on their fingers and the tattoos on their arms. Like, every single person in this subway car has deeply thought about those things, even if they're not like a fashion person and they don't really think too much about the clothes that they wear. They've still chosen all of those things that are on their body. And as soon as you see someone, you kind of make them an archetype in your head, you know? There's like the corporate woman coming home from the office. There's the skateboarder dude. There's the filmmaker and the professor. But what if they're just playing a role for the day? What if they got up that morning and they decided that it would be fun to play with that look? And maybe they're feeling like a fully different person. The other day, I went to medieval times because my friend Raina is the queen in New Jersey right now. She's amazing. She's so royal. We love it. And we all kind of dressed up as best as we could in our medieval garb. My friends were better because they've been to a Renaissance fair before. But I put on like a long red maxi skirt that I got from my aunt and a pretty white flowy top that I don't really wear very often. And I put on my little brown trench coat that cinches at the waist. And I also recently learned how to do an updo with just a claw clip, where you just scoop and gather your hair and then shape it like a sculpture on the top of your head. And I wore that, and I just felt like a beautiful woman, like the women that you see in the movies. I felt like Keira Knightley in Pride and Prejudice, but I don't always present myself that way. And it's just so interesting to think about what you are projecting out to other people and to tune into those moments where you're kind of struck by this feeling of inhabiting your body in a new way, and a way that maybe you really like, and kind of clocking what makes you feel powerful and seeing what it is about what you're doing right now that you can replicate later on. Like the other day in that outfit, going to medieval times, I was like, what about this outfit do I love? I was like, why do I feel more myself right now than I usually feel? Like, why do I feel like that image of the woman that like little girl Anna really wanted to be? And I was like, okay, it's the long flowy skirt. Like, we can do that again. We can get more long flowy skirts. It's the long trench coat that cinches at the waist. We can wear that again. We can get more things like that. It feels like caring for your inner child. Like, oh my God.
Anna is discovering the concept of self-expression.
But I don't know, I thought this was kind of profound. Like,
stay with me.
I'm not really a fashion girl. I have fun with clothes, whatever. But this isn't really about fashion. It's more about paying attention and being devoted to paying attention to yourself. Like, when you get those little glimmers of, oh, this is what I like to feel like. Oh, this is nice. I feel like myself right now. And caring about yourself enough to take note of that and replicate it again. And this goes beyond the clothes that we wear, obviously. It's your entire self-concept. I saw something the other day that said, basically, if you think that you're self-aware, but the only things that you're really thinking about yourself are the things that you need to change, then you're not actually self-aware. So I've been thinking a lot lately about the act of making a self-concept like you're making art. I've always hated the whole just be yourself thing, because so often, especially when you're young, you don't know who you are. How are you supposed to be yourself? And the way to
Be yourself and be comfortable in your own skin and whatever, like
all of those platitudes that people throw out all the time, the way to do that is to pay attention to yourself and be devoted to yourself. so that when you are wearing that outfit that makes you feel better than you did the day before, you take note of it and you replicate that shit. It's paying attention to your internal world. There's this Notion template by a guy named Flickman, and it's called the Who I Am page. I'll link it in the episode description if you guys want to check it out. But basically, it's just a place to dump the things that you know about yourself. I think about it like if I'm in love with someone else, I'm going to be taking notes on the things that they like and the things that they don't like because I care about them, right? And because maybe I want to get them a good gift, or I want to make sure that I remember this thing about them. I take notes on that shit. They're a different person than me. I don't expect myself to just know those things about their wants and their needs, their desires, their favorite things and their least favorite things. And I think a mistake that we can make is thinking that we know those things about ourselves, and maybe we do in some like corner of the back of our mind. But on a day when you feel like poop, having this information about yourself at the ready is really, really helpful because it's really easy to forget who you are, forget what you like, forget what feels good to you when you feel bad, right? Like on a terrible day when I'm bloated and I feel gross, something as simple as putting on a long skirt and a coat that cinches at the waist might make me feel 1% better, and 1% is better than 0%. Like these are the little ways that we can take care of ourselves. But anyway, back to this Who I Am document that I was talking about. He has a bunch of different categories that you can come in and just fill in at any time that you want. You don't have to do it all at once. I've been going in and just any time that I think of something that goes into one of these categories, I'll add it. So it's things like things I liked doing as a child, memories from childhood, what are things that I won't shut up about, my favorite books, my favorite leaders, personal slogans, my favorite movies and TV shows, activities and people that recharge me, activities and people that drain me, my interest in hyperfixations. One that I added was content creators that inspire me, art I want to come back to engage with. That's another one that I added. Desires, observations and conclusions, self-reflections. Essentially, this is just journaling, right? But it is a way where you can very easily and quickly go back and see these things. I just know that in order to be yourself, you have to first know who you are, and that knowing is something that you have to intentionally do. And I think a reason why this is such an important concept to me right now is because I've been through a good amount of heartbreak in the past year. Womp womp. But observing my patterns of care for other people and then asking myself if I'm actually giving that care to myself has been an interesting question to answer. I literally remember thinking to myself a few months ago, if I was my own girlfriend, what would I say to myself right now? I think that when I was younger, any attempts to incorporate more self-care into my routine were motivated by shame. And what I've come to realize as absolute fact for me is that shame might be sufficient enough to kick you in the butt to start, but it is not going to sustain you. And in most cases, shame is actually going to paralyze you into complete inaction. And when you're paralyzed into complete inaction, that's when you start to fantasize about somebody else coming to save you. And at the end of the day,
nobody's coming to save you.
And in this past year, I think I changed so much as an individual because I realized that I had an encounter with a person that I'm pretty sure was a full-blown narcissist. And observing the way that she would twist any situation to make her the victim and then move forward with this expectation that everybody would fall in line to save her, essentially from herself, was really disturbing to me. But it was also one of the greatest motivators I've ever had to stop blaming outside sources when life isn't going the way that I want it to. I think, especially as women, we are so conditioned to believe in passivity and to praise passivity, to wait for that savior to come. I think the messaging is starting to change a little bit, but especially when I was a little girl, so much of the messaging was like,
The less perspective you have, the better.
so much of what we saw were these images of women being passive, having little to no perspective at all, and then having a man come and save her over and over and over again. Just a succession of images of the man saving this woman who has never developed a personality. Like, I was watching Twilight with my roommate last night, and we were just laughing so hard at the fact that she is so YN. She is your name. And I think that the true gift in getting your heart broken is evolving past YN, becoming a person. Okay, I just want to clarify. I am not saying that I didn't have a perspective or a point of view or a personality, whatever, before experiencing heartbreak. That's not what I mean at all. I've always had strong opinions and whatever, blah, blah, blah. But heartbreak becomes something that's easier and easier to move through the more refined your vision of yourself is. Like the last guy that I talked to romantically, I remember looking at our texts and having a lot of moments of like smiling at my phone, right? Like that moment of like kind of being a little bit giddy and smiling at your phone and laughing at the conversation. But when I think about it, 9 times out of 10, I was laughing at my own messages. This is a sidebar, but there was a moment when he said a joke that made so little sense. And I was like,
Am I having a stroke? Like, what's going on?
and I plugged it into ChatGPT. Like I plugged in what he said to ChatGPT to be like, what does this mean? And ChatGPT literally was like, I have no idea. This was a failed attempt at a joke. It makes no sense. Anyway, I think what I'm trying to say is that I'm funny. No, but really, after that ended, I just remember having this kind of like pure excitement one day because so much of what I thought that I liked about that guy, I actually liked about myself. And I just liked that hanging out with him kind of like brought that part of me out. But that part of me is still there, whether that person is in my life or not. Another sidebar, kind of, but it plays into what we're talking about. I was on TikTok just now and I saw a girl talking about how she basically is using ChatGPT to find her dream man this year. And I wanted to shake her shoulders. So what she did was like feed ChatGPT this list of attributes of her quote unquote dream man, and then asked ChatGPT what kind of woman this dream man would want. And then asked ChatGPT to create a schedule for her so that she can become this dream man's dream woman. And I'm like, girl, this is the male gaze. If you didn't listen to the last episode, the dating episode, one of the guys that I went on a date with had such a skewed, weird idea of what the male gaze is. And I'm like, this is the male gaze. It's when women create their whole lives and their whole personality around this fake man in their head that's watching them and judging everything that they do, whether it's good enough for them or not. And I just want to like shake her and be like, what is your dream schedule to become your dream woman? Why are we working towards this fake dream man who, okay, if this dream man lands in your life, okay, great. And then if he leaves your life, what are you left with? If you haven't cultivated a personality, a self-concept, a schedule that you're really proud of and excited about, it crumbles again. What is the point of that? Be so for real right now. But like really, the more that I'm devoted to myself and to my own life, the more I am like chiseling out an image for myself that, as Jenny Slate says, I'm pretty sure I put this Jenny Slate quote in the last episode, but she says something like, as the image of myself becomes sharper in my mind, the less afraid I am that someone will erase me by denying me love, basically. When we go through heartbreak, especially as women, because we have been fed that narrative of like, just be the damsel in distress, of like,
It is so hot and rewarding to be the damsel in distress. You're going to love it.
because we've been fed that, we maybe start there. And then after the first heartbreak, you realize how much of yourself you still have to shape. And the fact that these people that we were taught were going to come and save us were actually the people that we would have to save ourselves from. Whoa. I'm getting so deep on the pod right now. But yeah, I don't know. The concept of self-love has been so twisted in so many ways and so commodified that it's barely recognizable, and it seems like a cliche trope to even talk about. But to me, self-love is a devotion to my own becoming in those tiny moments, those tiny, tiny moments of like, how can I ritualize this experience to make it a little bit better for me, whatever that means. I saw a TikTok this past weekend that I think might have changed my life. And with TikTok in mortal danger of being banned at any second, aka in January, I thought it would be good to give this creator their flowers. Her name is Liv, I believe. I'll pop her username on the screen and in the show notes. But I pulled the transcript of what she said and I want to read it to you. I would just play it, but I don't know if that's like against the rules, if I'll like
Go to jail or be killed for doing such a thing.
So I'm just going to read it to you. Her words pulled me out of a deep doom scroll event, you know, when you're like stuck for hours scrolling and you're like the whole time thinking, oh my God, what is wrong with me? Why can't I get up right now? These words pulled me out of it and have changed the last few days. I mean, yes, it's only been a couple of days, okay? So we can't really say that my life is literally changed, but in the span of a couple of days, the way that I have gone about my days has changed because of this person's words. So anyway, I'm doing a lot of talking. Let's get into it. Here's what she said. You don't need discipline as an artist. You need devotion. Because creativity rewards those with the highest self-respect, not with the most talent. Starting each part of your day as important, as a ritual, you will start to understand what self-respect is. Self-respect actually means what you eat, when you shower, cook, especially clean, when you do your hair. If you do so with consciousness and an act of devotion, of love as you do it, you will end up having the most respect for yourself. Because when you plate your food instead of eating it out of plastic, that is self-respect for you. When you clean your clothes, that is self-respect for you. It is also gratitude for everything in your vicinity. Everything you touch has energy and meaning. When you make a ritual out of your life, you make your life a work of art. Because this is all there is. It's the same day over and over and over. And you're waiting for this moment in the future where you'll have money or the material objects around you to start respecting yourself. Start today. You are missing out on the meaning of your own life because you are rushing around like a headless chicken, and that's what capitalism wants you to do. It wants you to go as fast as you can, so time just races and you miss your whole life. You miss the significance of your life, and you throw your clothes on the floor. You put your clothes on the floor where you walk with your feet. Because if you took the time to pick up that garment, put it on a hanger, and feel the energy of what that garment does for you, you would appreciate it. You would stop buying a million things. But you don't. You just stuff everything into a drawer. You don't even hang things up because you don't even care. And that's what capitalism wants you to do. It wants you to forget about everything you've ever bought and your emotional connection to it. So you keep buying more things. Find the joy. Does this spark joy? Did we just forget that? I'm talking about things that actually bring beauty, joy, and happiness to your life. You don't need discipline. You need devotion. Right after hearing that, what that made me do is get up and clean my space and change the wall behind me that I've been wanting to change for months and months and months. Those postcards that were there in the last episode are no longer there. I've done something different with it. And it's not in its final iteration, right? I'm going to keep changing the wall behind me until it's exactly what I want. But it's way closer now than it was a week ago. And I've done other things with the space to make it feel more like my home. And the sense of safety and accomplishment and coziness that that gave me was like, oh my God. When she said, when you make a ritual out of your life, you make your life a work of art, something clicked into place for me. Especially this idea of ritualizing every moment is fun to me because it unlocks a creativity when you think to yourself, how can I make this moment more beautiful for me? How can I make this moment more cozy for me? So the next day after I saw this TikTok, I remember I woke up and it was super rainy outside. It was one of those days where the sun wasn't really coming up and it was really hard to get out of bed. So I was thinking to myself, okay, how can I ritualize the act of getting up and out of bed on a cold and rainy day? Okay, what I can do is I can go take a shower and I can bring a candle into the bathroom to make the experience of showering a little bit more cozy. I mean, it's already raining outside, so why don't I just play into the environment outside instead of being upset at the environment outside for being what it is? Maybe today is just supposed to be a cozy day where it's raining outside, but I'm still gonna get out of bed. I'm still gonna light that candle and I'm gonna intentionally make my environment play with what's happening outside instead of begrudgingly working against the fact that it's raining and I don't want to get out of bed. How can I make it a slightly more beautiful experience to me so that there's something to look forward to get me out of bed? And it comes down to these really little micro moments that we look past so easily. Something as simple as breakfast. So right now, our oven is broken. It's really lovely and it's taking forever to fix. So
Love that.
But I've been eating these like prepackaged muffins for breakfast every morning. And before I was just like plopping them on a paper towel and going about my day. It wasn't a great start to the day because I'm immediately thinking,
Oh my gosh, our oven still doesn't work. What I would usually make for breakfast, I can't make. This sucks, blah, blah, blah.
But instead, when I thought to myself, okay, how can I ritualize this moment for myself? How can I take care of what I'm touching and what I'm doing? Instead of just taking a paper towel and plopping it on the paper towel and going about my day, I actually got a cute little like tea plate, unpackaged the muffin, like took it out of its little paper thing and put it on the plate and ate it at the table. And for some people, that would have been default. For me, it's not default. If something is convenient, I'm just going to let it be convenient and I'm going to let myself feel like blah about eating it. It's a little bit less convenient to put it on an actual plate and then actually have to go and wash the plate afterwards. But I do think that it's so easy to get caught up in that cycle of convenience that you're like perpetually disconnecting yourself from any beauty that you could find in the day-to-day moments. And of course, another way to put this that you've probably heard a million times is romanticize your life. And if that helps you like step into this, that's another way into thinking of your life like this. For me, thinking of it like what she said about your life is art and the idea of ritual versus routine really helped me start to think about things differently. And I think that there are a million different people all the time telling us that we need to be more disciplined and giving us tips on productivity and blah, blah, blah. Like that is noise that's surrounding us all day, every day, especially if you're an entrepreneur in the online space. We are practically force-fed messaging about consistency and discipline. And I've done it. I've talked about that left and right. Because it is important, right? Consistency and discipline and blah, 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 blah. But I love the reframing of discipline to devotion. And you can take all of this too far, too. If I approach this with the mindset that I'm optimizing myself because there's something wrong with me, then all of the journaling and all of the self-reflection and all of the mindfulness actually just becomes a weapon against myself. I think of that meme with Jemima Kirk, where someone asked her a question about like, how do you stop being so self-conscious around other people? And her response was, I think you guys are thinking about yourself too much. So all of this can veer into the thinking about yourself too much really easily. Self-concept work only stays fun and fruitful for as long as you can look at yourself like you are yours, you know? A guy named Matthew Hussey talks about this, about self-care not being about being obsessed with yourself and like loving yourself to death all the time, because you don't love anyone all the time. Everybody annoys you at some point, right? But like if you ask a mother why they love their child, they don't say, well, I love my child because they got all A's and they're perfect and blah, blah, blah. They say, I love my child because they're my child. They're mine. It's the same for you. You are yours. So that's why you love you. You don't have to wait until you're perfect.
This is an unfolding.
Ew, I feel like I'm being so motivational speech girl right now. This is just honestly what's been on my mind for the past couple of weeks. Anyway, I think that's all I have for you today. I love you. I literally am in love with you. I don't know. DM me, talk to me. I got a lot of DMs after the dating episode with your dating stories, and I am so enthused by that shit. Please keep them coming. I could talk about dating and love and relationships literally all day long. It's like my favorite topic of all time. One of my clients was telling me about how she has a dating coach, and as soon as I heard that that exists as a career, I was like, oh my God, I think that's my dream career. Like she'll literally screen share her messages with her dates with her dating coach, and her dating coach will like talk her through things. That sounds so fun. And I know it's just because I'm nosy, but like Wild Geese is now a dating advice column. I'm kidding. But like, okay, bye.